Hi, I'm Christine Russo, and welcome to What Just Happened. Today, we welcome Eric Schock from NCR Voyix. Eric, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Eric, give us a little bit of background on what you're doing these days, and then we'll get right into it.
Thanks. So I've been in NCR Voyix for about 8 years now. And about a year ago, we split the company. So NCR was made up of both ATMs as well as digital commerce. We split the company between ATMs and digital commerce, and NCR Voyix was formed. NCR Voyix is made up of 3 businesses: the retail business, the restaurant business, and our digital banking business. Think of it as our digital commerce set of businesses. And I'm responsible for our retail business here at NCR Voyix.
So my background is in building stores. And so that was forever a demand on CapEx. And it's always been a champion and seen as this incremental way to grow a business. I recently had a conversation with someone from that store development world, and they asked me, what is the single most impact you can have on the customer experience in the store? And they thought it would be something physical, because that's my background. And I said, it's checkout, it's POS. And they were like, what? Like, can't be. And I said, yes, it very much is. So would you like to spend some time talking about the importance of that experience from a consumer standpoint and from your company's standpoint on how much you stand behind that?
Absolutely, I do. Retailers are trying, every retail decision maker needs data, and they need data and insights in order to run their business and to grow their business. And the way you talked about it, experiences, the way that they are going to provide experiences both to their guests as well as their team members or store associates, they're going to use data to do that, to drive those decisions, whether it's inventory, pricing, different marketing mix, promotions, product placement, merchandising, and of course, building a brand. The way they get the data is through their store systems, and point of sale is at the heart of those store systems. It's a lot of retailers would call it the heartbeat or the soul of the store. And a lot of the store systems, IHL did a piece earlier this year where they said 40% of retailers were looking to change or upgrade their store systems because their store systems today aren't up to the task of providing the amount of data as fast with all the different challenges that retailers have today, whether it be shrink, whether it be labor challenges, whether it be changes in consumer demand and consumer preferences. To plan for inventory when you have buy online, pick up in store, to plan for both inventory and to plan for labor, it's a very different challenge than you had pre-pandemic, where buy online, pick up in store wasn't nearly as prevalent as it is today and growing. And so we call this a bit of an upgrade imperative that retailers are going through around their store systems, and the point of sale software is at the heart of that upgrade imperative. So that's really what the spin was all about for us on the retail side, is shifting our model and transforming our business to a platform-based software and services model. We're going through a lot of changes here on the technology side, where we're providing next generation, both point of sale as well as self-checkout software, where we've reimagined and replatformed and brought a whole next generation set of capabilities to our customers.
So the company itself has gone through a digital transformation.
We are going through it as we speak, and we are then partnering with, and we believe we're leading and reinventing store systems in the industry. We're partnering with our customers through their digital transformation. We have the honor of serving 67% of the largest 400 retailers by revenue. And I'm honored to have the privilege to serve this wonderful team here at NCR Voyix and all these excellent customers, some of the largest retailers in the world, all the way to the small, medium businesses with 1 or 2 stores.
There has to be a high level of trust, because as much as it's an imperative, It's like going to the dentist. You're pretty loath to do it.
Yeah, I've never met a retail store or a retailer, whether it's the CEO, the COO, the CIO, any store operations leader. Doubt you'll ever find one that'll wake up one day and say, boy, I'm really looking forward to making a change to my point of sale. They know they need to. They know that a lot of the store systems today can limit them. It's some of the older aging technology, and they know they need to get data and insights much faster than they get today. But it's, as I said at the very beginning, people will say that the point of sale is the heartbeat of the store. It's a big change.
Sure is. It speaks to the NCR Voyix service where when they do wake up, and it's more from a nightmare, oh, I gotta change my POS. They envision a future without it, and it can be quite bleak, that they don't go elsewhere to do it. There are a lot of, as many new solution providers and competition. So you're up against the modernity to the POS industry. You're evolving, and you're keeping your clients and maintaining their needs.
There's a need for continuous operation with every one of these stores. I mean, they have to be able to evolve, and there's a high risk. Do we rip and replace? Do we do nothing and go out of business? That's not an option. Do you inject a huge amount of risk and do a rip and replace? Or what we actually advise customers is there's actually a more evolutionary path you can take. And so we strongly encourage and partner with our customers and call it retailers that leverage other technology providers, a revitalization path that allows for these continuous operations without tremendous amount of undue risk, while also getting benefits that they don't have today injected into their business, capabilities and benefits that they don't have today, so that it's much more of a I'll call it a lower risk, more pragmatic path to this upgrade imperative. And as you said, we worked with over 50 different providers around the world in reimagining our self-checkout solution. Before I go into the specifics of it, though, I think it's really important to talk about the team for a second. Being the number one self-checkout provider in the world, one path would have been for us to maybe do more of an incremental approach, maybe a new operating system, a new user interface, maybe some new features and functionality. Another path would have been to reimagine everything from scratch. Leverage all of the experience and learnings that we have, and then do something truly next generation. Almost like the pre-iPhone, right? Maybe an analogy I can draw. And our team here at NCR Voyix had the courage and conviction to undertake that reimagination. And that reimagination of the solution was around three key principles: speed, intelligence, and innovation. And our intent, our aim, was to enable the self-checkout to become a true consumer engagement touch point, to drive amazing experiences, not just for guests or consumers, but also for store associates or team members.
Can we drill down on that?
Absolutely.
Consumer engagement touch point.
Yeah.
A lot of people speak to that. I want to know your version of that and what a true version of that is, how the innovation supports that.
Absolutely. So speed. Let's talk about speed for a second. Our new self-checkout applications powered with our Edge software, which enables a retailer to stay up to date with the new features and functionality that enables them to drive new feature and functionality across their lanes and their stores or locations in a matter of minutes. When in the past, that would have taken months to do a feature upgrade or a feature change, or even a user interface, a color change on the screen. That can take months, maybe 2 or 3 updates a year. So think the principles of agile software development and deploying new capabilities and features, just like you would on a website or what we say a digital channel. So how do you run your stores? How do you enable to run your stores, your physical stores, like you do your digital channels? How do you test different user interface options, different pricing options, different color palettes, different seasonal themes, just like you would on a website. How do you do A/B testing? We answer all those questions of the how. We enable retailers to do that with our next generation self-checkout capabilities. The next principle is intelligence. Intelligence is about providing retailers with those real-time insights on store operations from our platform. And our platform provides the actionable insights from all the rich data coming from every one of those devices. And that gives a retailer, a retail store operator, much more clear insight in order to make decisions, predict issues that impact both their operations as well as the guest experiences. Like, how many self-checkout lanes do I need that have cash versus card at different peak times, not only during the day, but during the month or the quarter? How do I take all my historic data of transactions? How much are cash transactions? How much is card? How do I bring social media feeds, events, weather that's coming in the future to then optimize that self-checkout experience and layout of the front end? We can't be static anymore. We have to be able to be agile, and we need intelligence, though, to inform that agility. And the third principle is innovation. Think future compatible. People like to say future proof. We don't necessarily believe in future proof. I'll say future compatible. And forgive me, I'll use a little bit of the Tesla example, where autonomous driving was envisioned in the first Teslas, but the software feature wasn't there, but the cars were ready to accept it when the software was ready, right? So we designed our next generation self-checkout to be that future compatible. So today, most of self-checkout is barcode scanning, 2D, some 3D barcode scanning. But we know artificial intelligence, computer vision, we know RFID is very prevalent. Palm payments, very prevalent. Retinal identification for payment is also something that's coming to retail stores. We also know that these terminals need to be consumer engagement, or that was the feedback from our customers, from our retailers, that they need to be true consumer engagement endpoints. And so all of the technology, both physical interfaces, ready to accept new software, and anticipates these multi-signals of both input as well as engagement, have all been provided in this next generation set of capabilities. And then lastly, I'll talk about the hardware. When we talk about the hardware in terms of a configurable modular fabric, truly being able to change cash versus card in a self-checkout unit. Today, that's very rigid and static. In our next generation self-checkout, that is configurable. That is a configurable modular fabric. Bagwells, the same way. Programmable digital tri-lights that enable, whether it be navigation for consumers, maybe advertising for consumers, or just providing a seasonal and local event communication. Again, let's turn this into a true digital touch point that can be intuitive and provide a better experience for consumers and for the store associates or team members.
You touched on several topics that I find to be very interesting. The first is future compatibility. I've never been a proponent or supporter of the phrase future proof. In fact, I wrote a little bit about it where when you proof something, you're actually protecting it against something. So if you're protecting against the future, you're stagnant, to your point, static and stagnant. So you don't want a future proof. You want to be future compatible. And that's a great perspective to have within the organization and in your innovation. I speak to a lot of CTOs, and they're focused on agility, flexibility, and composability. That those are key components in which they're vetting their technology solution providers. because they know that locking into any one thing is just a way of the past, and it's just not, it's changing too fast.
Absolutely agree, 100%.
So you're really speaking the language, you're servicing, you're providing what people are looking for. I think everyone came to this conclusion at the same time. I think post-pandemic, it was like, what are we doing? And then all this innovation started to happen where it's like the it depends approach that we all have to plan for and yet not plan for. Did we really spend enough time talking about Edge? Because I find it to be really interesting, a really interesting offering that you guys have carved out, that layer that's giving you that flexibility. So for listeners, Edge sits in between the kind of all encompassing cloud and the sort of store level hardware piece and hardware software ecosystem. And in between is this flexible kind of like runner, call it. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. Go get me this. Go get me that. We're doing this now. And they're like this little brainiacs running around servicing the demands, pulling from the big guy up top and servicing a myriad, millions of different iterations of the experience, checkout, etc. I want you to drill down on that so the listeners really know about it.
I'm glad you asked me about it because it's a subject I'm really passionate about. And you're right, to frame it, two ways to think about it. One way, very simply, is how do I take all the great things we do in the cloud? When I say I as a retailer, how does a retailer take all the great things that we can do in the cloud and extend them into a store from a technology perspective? Because the cloud data centers are clean, they're, I'm gonna say they're very well protected, lots of security, great compute and storage capabilities, great networking capabilities. Stores aren't always that perfect. You could be in this convenience store, you could be in a grocery store, you could be in a specialty store, and it doesn't have that perfect environmentals, if you will, that a data center has. But you still have the same demands. As I said, it's important that we try and operate or enable our retailers to operate their stores like a digital channel. And so Edge really is that technology, that almost that store operating system, if I may, that enables that to happen. And you're right, it sits between the hardware, the specification-based hardware compute capabilities, whether they be servers in the back of the store, or now all of the lanes or the computers that we call checkout lanes, the EPOS devices, all spread out throughout the store. It sits between the hardware and the application layer itself. And we support both virtual machines, so think maybe a Windows-based application, more of a monolithic application that we put into a virtual machine. We can support that, but we can also support Kubernetes container, and we can support that container based application or microservice right on bare metal. And we can do that both, as I said, a lot of the early virtual machine, and it came from virtual desktoping, were a server pair. Think of a server stack in the back of the store, and then maybe a Linux kernel or a thin client out distributed in the stores, and the applications are all running on those servers in the back of the store. But now we can bring those applications and we can leverage all that compute in the stores all out in the lanes or the EPOS or point of sale terminals, and we can almost use it like a distributed computing farm, where if one unit goes down, the applications fail to the other unit. So you're able to leverage all that hardware that you have in your store, that existing investment, as you modernize your applications. And we can support both virtual machines as well as container-based applications in the same virtual, if you will, instance, trying to put it in layman's terms. And that's the first in the industry. And that edge capability is what fuels all of our next generation applications. But we also provide Edge as a platform for third-party applications. And whether those applications are developed by the retailer or by another third party, they can leverage that, if you will, that I'll say store operating system to deploy third-party or homegrown applications. And so we think it's a real differentiator, not only for us, but also enables what we aspire to provide, which is I'll say that next generation retail store architecture for the industry. So we can reimagine how store systems, how they should work going forward.
Those were my words and my thoughts too, that it's a differentiator. It's a tough space. Need a differentiator.
Lots of competition, and people need differentiators in order to provide experiences.
It's both, it actually became commoditized for a little while. There was a lot of sameness. And actually the way retailers are pulling ahead based on their own innovation, that's what's happening in your space too. The ones who are innovating, the ones who are responding to the market, listening, those are the ones that are pulling away from what was a pretty large group and still is.
Oh,
There are
yeah.
definitely leaders now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Have a great one.
And thank you for listening to What Just Happened. I'm Christine Russo.